The Ferrari looked like it had never belonged on that dusty roadside. It gleamed even under the harsh afternoon sun, a streak of red brilliance against a stretch of cracked asphalt and dry grass. Its engine, however, had surrendered, silent, stubborn, and completely unresponsive. Ethan Cole stepped out, adjusting his cufflinks out of habit, though there was no one around to impress. A billionaire known for building one of the most successful tech empires in the country, he wasn't used to being stuck. Problems in his world came with solutions, fast, efficient, and expensive. But this one didn't. He tapped his phone. No signal. He muttered under his breath, frustration tightening his jaw. His meeting in the city was in less than an hour, a deal worth millions. He kicked lightly at the tire, then instantly regretted it. This wasn't helping. That's when he heard a small voice. "My dad can fix it." Ethan turned. A little girl stood a few feet away, no older than 7. Her hair was tied in 2 uneven ponytails, and she held a worn-out teddy bear tucked under her arm. Her dress was simple, faded at the edges, but clean. She smiled like she had just offered the most obvious solution in the world. Ethan blinked. "I'm sorry?" "My dad," she repeated, pointing down the road. "He fixes cars. He can fix yours, too." Ethan glanced at the endless stretch of emptiness behind her. No garage, no signboard, just a small cluster of houses far in the distance. He almost smiled, almost. "That's kind of you, but this isn't a regular car. It's complicated." She tilted her head, studying him with surprising seriousness. "Cars are just cars," she said. "They all need someone who understands them." Something about her certainty made him pause. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily." "Well, Lily, I appreciate it, but your dad might not have the tools for something like this." She stepped closer to the Ferrari, her eyes lighting up. "It's pretty," she said softly. Then she looked back at Ethan. "But it's still broken." That stung more than he expected. After a moment of silence, she added, "He fixed Mrs. Turner's truck. It wouldn't even start for 2 days. And he didn't even charge her because she was sad." Ethan crossed his arms, unsure why he was still standing there listening. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was her voice. So certain, so unaffected by the weight of the world he carried. Or maybe, for the first time in a long time, he didn't have a better option. "All right," he said finally. "Lead the way." Her face lit up instantly, like he had just agreed to something magical. "Come on," she said, already walking. Ethan locked his car reluctantly and followed her down the narrow dirt path. The houses came into clearer view, small, weathered, but lived in. The kind of place people passed by without noticing. The kind of place Ethan had spent his life moving away from. They stopped in front of a modest home with peeling paint and a small front yard filled with scattered tools. A man was crouched beside an old pickup truck, his hands deep in the engine. "Dad," Lily called. The man looked up. His face was lined with fatigue, but his eyes softened immediately when he saw her. "What is it, sweetheart?" "He needs help," she said, pointing at Ethan. "His car is broken." The man stood, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked at Ethan, not with awe or recognition, but with simple curiosity. "What seems to be the problem?" Ethan hesitated. He wasn't used to explaining himself to people like this. "It won't start. I'm not sure why." The man nodded. "I can take a look." Ethan glanced at his watch. "I can pay you well," he added quickly, almost defensively. The man smiled faintly. "Let's fix it first." They walked back together. As the man inspected the Ferrari, Ethan watched closely, expecting confusion or hesitation. But there was none. The man moved with quiet confidence, listening to the engine, checking connections, adjusting components with precision. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't flashy. It was careful. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. "Daniel." Ethan nodded. "You've worked on cars like this before?" Daniel chuckled. "A machine's a machine. It tells you what's wrong if you listen." Ethan thought about that. After about 20 minutes, Daniel stepped back. "Try it now." Ethan slid into the driver's seat, skeptical. He turned the key. The engine roared to life. He froze. For a moment, he just sat there, staring at the dashboard, listening to the sound he thought he wouldn't hear again that day. Then he stepped out slowly. "How?" he asked. Daniel shrugged. "Loose fuel line, small issue, big inconvenience." Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Thank you," he said, more sincerely than he had intended. You have no idea what this means. He reached for his wallet and pulled out a thick stack of cash. Please, take this. Daniel looked at the money, then at Ethan. That's too much. It's not, Ethan insisted. It's nothing compared to what you've done. Daniel shook his head. I fixed a car, that's all. Ethan frowned. You could use it. I mean, he stopped himself, realizing how it sounded. Daniel didn't seem offended, just calm. We manage, he said. If you want to pay what you think is fair, not what you think will ease your conscience. The words hit harder than any rejection Ethan had ever faced. Slowly, he lowered the money. For the first time in a long time, he didn't know what fair meant. Lily tugged at his sleeve. See? She said proudly. I told you. Ethan looked at her, really looked this time. Her shoes were worn, her dress was faded, but her smile, it was unshaken, untouched by worry. Yeah, he said softly. You did. He ended up leaving a modest amount on the workbench back at the house, enough to respect the work but not overwhelm it. As he drove away, something felt different. The meeting no longer seemed urgent. The deal no longer felt important. That night, in his penthouse overlooking the city, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the little house by the roadside, about Daniel's steady hands, about Lily's unwavering belief. My dad can fix it. It wasn't just about the car, it was about something Ethan had lost somewhere along the way. The next morning, he canceled his meetings. A week later, he returned. The Ferrari parked in the same dusty spot, but this time, Ethan stepped out with purpose. Lily saw him first. You came back, she shouted, running toward him. He smiled. I did, Daniel approached, wiping his hands again. Something wrong with the car? He asked. Ethan shook his head. No, it's running perfectly. Then what brings you here? Ethan looked around. The house, the tools, the quiet resilience of a life built without excess. I wanted to ask you something, he said. Daniel waited. Ethan took a breath. I built my company fixing problems people didn't even know they had, he said. But somewhere along the way, I stopped understanding real ones. He gestured toward the house. You have skill, patience, integrity, things money can't buy. I want to invest in that. Daniel frowned slightly. I don't need charity. It's not charity, Ethan said quickly. It's partnership, a proper garage, equipment, training programs. You could teach others, help more people, build something bigger, on your terms. Silence settled between them. Lily looked up at her father. That sounds nice, she whispered. Daniel knelt beside her. What do you think? He asked. She smiled. We can help more people. Daniel stood slowly, looking at Ethan again. You're not doing this because of the car, he said. Ethan shook his head. No, he admitted. I'm doing it because your daughter reminded me of something I forgot. That the most valuable things in life aren't things at all. Daniel studied him for a long moment. Then finally he nodded. All right, he said, but we do it right. Ethan smiled, a real smile this time. Together, he said. Months later, the roadside had changed. Where there once stood a small, worn house, now stood a modest but thriving garage. Still simple, still grounded, but full of life. People came from nearby towns, not just for repairs, but for honesty, for fairness, for care. And every now and then, a red Ferrari would be parked outside, not because it was broken, but because its owner had found something worth returning to. One afternoon, as Ethan watched Lily laugh while handing tools to a young trainee, she looked up at him and grinned. See, she said, my dad fixes everything. Ethan chuckled softly. No, he said, he doesn't fix everything. She frowned slightly. Then what? Ethan looked around. The people, the purpose, the quiet impact of one simple act of kindness. He reminds people how to, he said. And in that moment, Ethan realized something profound. Sometimes the smallest voices carry the greatest truths. And sometimes being stranded is exactly what leads you home